Have you ever stood in front of a birthday cake, closed your eyes, made a wish, and blown out the candles without ever really asking why? It's one of those moments so familiar that most of us never stop to think about it. The candles are lit, everyone sings, you take a breath, and just like that, they're gone. But where did this little ritual come from? And what does fire, smoke, and wishing actually have to do with turning a year older? In this episode, we're lighting up the story behind the birthday candle, right here on the Lost History of Everyday Things. If you like this video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification icons. If you have suggestions for future episodes, please let us know in the comments. Let's start with the obvious question. Why do we even put candles on a cake in the first place? The tradition is often traced back to ancient Greece, where people would bring round cakes to the temple of Artemis, the goddess of the moon. These cakes were made to resemble the moon itself, and to help them shine, worshippers would place lit candles right on top. The candlelight was thought to make the cake glow the way moonlight does across the night sky, and the whole offering was meant as a gift to the goddess, a way of honoring her and asking for her blessing and protection. Long before that, birthdays themselves were not always celebrated the way we celebrate them now. In many parts of the ancient and medieval world, tracking the exact day someone was born was mainly reserved for royalty, nobility, or religious figures, since ordinary people often did not keep precise records of dates at all. It was really only as towns grew, bakeries became more common, and record-keeping improved that the idea of celebrating an individual person's birthday, complete with a special cake made just for them, started to spread more widely among everyday families, rather than staying limited to the powerful and the wealthy. Over time, this idea of a glowing, candle-topped cake slowly became connected with something far more personal than a religious festival: a birthday. In Germany, during the 18th century, a celebration known as Kinderfeste became one of the earliest versions of the birthday party many of us would recognize today. On a child's birthday morning, a cake would be brought out with candles arranged around its edge. One candle for every year of the child's life, plus one extra candle placed proudly in the center. That extra candle was sometimes called the light of life, and it was meant to represent hope for the year still ahead. The cake would stay lit for the entire day, with the candles replaced as they burned low, and the family would not blow them out until the celebration was ending, right before the cake was finally cut and shared. Now, here is where I will admit something, and you are more than welcome to disagree with me. Setting a small cluster of open flames directly in front of a young child and then asking them to lean in close and blow is, when you really stop and think about it, a strange thing to do. We do not light candles for any other milestone in a person's life. We do not gather around with matches when someone learns to walk, loses their first tooth, or graduates from school. And if you look closely at what candles have actually represented in most of these old traditions, moonlight, offerings to a goddess, a symbolic light of life, none of it has all that much to do with the simple, ordinary fact that a person has completed one more trip around the sun. Getting older is really just time passing quietly in the background. Fire and melted wax do not seem to have an obvious connection to that at all. And yet somehow this is the ritual that stuck. It's a lovely tradition, no doubt, but it is also, if we are being honest, a slightly odd one to hand a toddler. That said, traditions do not always need to make perfect logical sense in order to be meaningful. And the wishing part of the ritual has its own fascinating backstory. The idea that blowing out a candle can carry a wish out into the world is thought to connect back to very old beliefs about smoke and fire. In many ancient cultures, smoke drifting upward into the sky was seen as a way of sending a message, an offering, or a prayer to the gods above. Fire itself was often treated as sacred, something that bridged the earthly world and the divine one. So, when a candle is blown out and the smoke curls upward and disappears, some believe that whatever wish was made in that instant travels along with it, carried up and out of sight, out of reach, and hopefully into the hands of whatever power might happen to be listening. It is a beautiful bit of symbolism, even if most of us today are simply wishing for a new phone or good grades rather than divine favor or a bountiful harvest. There is also a more grounded, less mystical explanation floating around that has nothing to do with gods or the heavens at all. Some historians point out that before electric lighting became common, birthdays were often celebrated in the evening, and candles were simply a practical way to light both the room and the cake at the same time. Making a wish and blowing the candles out at the very end of the celebration may have started as a natural, almost playful way to close out the evening once everyone was ready to eat, with all of the symbolism and superstition layered gradually on top as the tradition spread and grew more elaborate over the following generations. The custom of using the number of candles to represent someone's exact age is its own interesting piece of the puzzle. Counting out one candle for every year, rather than simply lighting a single flame, seems to have developed gradually, becoming more common as birthday celebrations spread and grew into a normal, expected part of family life, rather than a rare or special occasion reserved for royalty and the wealthy. Before that shift happened, many ordinary families could not always afford to mark birthdays with much fuss at all, and a cake covered in candles was, for a long time, something of a luxury rather than an expectation every single year. As birthday parties became more widely celebrated across different communities and social classes, the candle count turned into a fun, visual way of showing exactly how old the person turning was, giving the birthday cake its own small, flickering calendar sitting right there on the table. Not every culture blows out its candles in quite the same way either. In some traditions, it is considered good luck if you manage to blow out every single candle in one breath, and a sign your wish might not come true if even one small flame stunnedly stays lit. In other places, family members gather around to help younger children blow out their candles together, turning a solo performance into a shared collective moment instead. Some cultures do not really use candles on cakes in this way at all, choosing instead to mark birthdays with other kinds of lights, lanterns, or small bonfires as part of the wider celebration. Even the type of cake, its flavor, and the way it gets decorated can vary enormously depending on where in the world you happen to be. But that underlying idea of light, celebration, and hope for the year ahead seems to show up again and again, almost everywhere you look. Breath itself plays an interesting role in all of this too, and it is worth thinking about for a moment. In many spiritual and cultural traditions around the world, breath has long been treated as something closely tied to life and spirit, not just a simple bodily function. Ideas like this show up across many belief systems in different forms. The notion that the breath carries something of a person's essence or life force with it. So there is a certain poetry in the idea of using your own breath, the very thing that keeps you alive, to extinguish a flame that symbolizes another year of that same life. Almost as if you are personally sealing the wish with something only you can give. Singing before the candles get blown out is its own small tradition worth mentioning as well. The song many English-speaking countries use today, the one that begins with "Happy Birthday to You," only became widely popular during the 20th century, even though the melody underneath it is considerably older. Before that familiar tune took over, birthday celebrations often had their own regional songs, poems, or spoken blessings recited over the cake and candles before they were extinguished. In many versions of the custom, the singing and the wishing are treated as one single connected moment, building anticipation right up until the candles finally go out, almost like a small, warm countdown toward good fortune. There is also something worth noting about the psychology of the moment itself. Even though nobody really designed it this way on purpose, gathering a whole group of people around a table, focusing everyone's attention on one single person for just a few seconds, asking that person to pause, think of something meaningful, and then take a breath while everyone quietly watches, creates a small burst of connection and celebration that is genuinely hard to recreate through any other tradition. Whether or not the rising smoke actually carries a wish anywhere at all, the ritual itself gives people a built-in reason to slow down for a moment and mark the passing of another year together, out loud, surrounded by the people who care about them most. The candles themselves have changed a great deal in appearance over the years too. Traditional birthday candles were once fairly plain and simple, typically made from beeswax or basic paraffin. But today they come in nearly every color imaginable, along with sparkling versions, playful trick candles that relight themselves moments after being blown out, and number-shaped candles that let you display someone's exact age without needing to line up dozens of tiny sticks across the frosting. Some of these newer styles are really just lighthearted twists on the much older custom, adding a bit of humor or surprise to a tradition that has, in many other ways, stayed remarkably consistent across the centuries. Even with all of this history laid out, I still find myself coming back to that same thought from earlier in the story. Cake, candles, singing, and a quiet wish are lovely things to build a small celebration around. But candles specifically still feel like an unusual centerpiece for marking someone simply growing older, especially when the person leaning in to blow them out is barely old enough to understand what a wish even is. Maybe that is part of the charm, though, if you think about it a little differently. The tradition never really needed to make perfect sense in order to be worth keeping around. It has survived for centuries not because it is logical, but because it feels warm, festive, and a little bit magical. And sometimes that turns out to be more than enough. So the next time you find yourself standing in front of a cake, watching candlelight flicker gently across someone's face while everyone around you sings, take just a moment to remember how far this small ritual has traveled to reach your table. From ancient temples once devoted to honoring the moon, to quiet German family celebrations centuries later, to birthday parties held today in nearly every corner of the world, the humble birthday candle carries centuries of meaning packed inside its tiny, flickering flame. Whether you believe the smoke really does carry your wish somewhere beyond, or you simply enjoy the tradition for exactly what it is, it remains a small flicker of light with a surprisingly big story sitting quietly behind it. Thank you for watching this episode. If you have suggestions for our next videos, please share them in the comments below. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the lost history of everyday things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories that surprise us with their unique origins and often fascinating details.